making it even easier for families to enjoy fresh strawberries in wintertime and enabling manufacturers to weld longer, more complex supply chains, linking factories and distribution centers thousands of miles apart. Dozens of even larger ships would soon follow in Emma's wake, some able to carry more cargo than 11,000 over-the-road trucks. But just as a race to build monumental skyscrapers often heralds an economy poised for a correction, the Empire State Building in New York, planned in the late 1920s to be the world's tallest building, sat largely empty through the Great Depression of the 1930s, so the construction of ships too big to call at most of the world's ports was an early indicator of excessive exuberance. Unremarked at the time of Emma Maersk's launch, the era of ceaseless growth in goods trade was about to draw to a close. Those who assumed that globalization would stay on the course it had followed since the aftermath of World War II would pay a steep price. Globalization is not a recent concept. The word seems to have made its first appearance in Belgium in 1929. Physician and educator J.O. de Crowley used globalization to refer to a young child's developing attention to the broader world rather than itself alone. Over time, the term has had many other meanings. The idea that giant companies can sell the same product everywhere rather than different models in each country, the transmission of ideas from one country to another, the flag-waving enthusiasm of Americans and Kenyans and Chinese for English soccer teams led by non-British stars. The worldwide diffusion of religions is a form of globalization, as are the spread of disease and the large-scale migration of people in search of personal safety, political or social freedom, or greater economic opportunity. So, of course, is the increasing intensity of economic exchange across international frontiers. The world was in some ways highly globalized long ago. As the historians Jürgen Osterhammel and Niels P. Peterson put it, in a certain sense, the Americanization of Germany did not begin in 1945, but rather in the 18th century with the introduction of the potato. But globalization, as that term is used today, erupted with the birth of industrial capitalism in the 19th century, as Europe's colonial powers spun commercial webs across Africa and Asia, protecting their interests with armies, navies, and professional corps of colonial civil servants. Erstwhile manufacturing centers, notably India, were unable to match the higher productivity of European factories, and as their textiles became uncompetitive with foreign products, they sank into the role of commodity exporters. During this first globalization, international lending was routine, and in many countries exports and imports accounted for large shares of economic activity. Migrants crossed borders by the tens of millions, and motifs from China and Tahiti found their way into European art. The world seemed to have become so interconnected that war was impossible, until the eruption of World War I in August 1914 brought the first globalization to an abrupt end. The process of globalization paused from 1914 until roughly 1947, through 2 world wars, numerous regional wars, and a Great Depression. While multinational corporations expanded during those years, many of the financial, commercial, and human links across borders eroded. In some quarters, this retreat was welcomed. In 1943, the U.S. Congresswoman Clare Boothe Luce criticized Vice President Henry Wallace, who prided himself on his global perspective, for spouting globaloney. After much criticism, Luce abandoned the term in favor of global nonsense. But in the wake of her coinage, words such as globalistic, globalitis, and globalism made their way into the American vocabulary, being employed to disparage immigration, foreign trade, and even proposals for international cooperation. Globalization began anew in the late 1940s, after the Allied victory in World War II. This development was supported by a less rigid system of exchange rates and a concerted effort to lower barriers to trade in raw materials and manufactured goods.